In early 2026, a geopolitical shock began rippling across the Atlantic Alliance. What started as a military escalation tied to the widening Iran conflict quickly spilled into diplomacy, trade, and global power politics. Tensions surged when Spain refused to allow U.S. forces to operate from key NATO bases on its territory. Washington responded with a controversial threat to cut off trade with Spain entirely. But the story didn't stop there. Europe rallied behind Madrid, Canada voiced concerns, and visible cracks appeared inside the Western alliance. So what exactly happened, and why does it matter now? Here are the developments. NATO-based dispute, Spain blocks U.S.-Iran strike access. At the center of this dispute are two key U.S. military installations in southern Spain, Naval Station Rota and Moron Air Base. These facilities have long supported U.S. and NATO operations across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. But when Washington sought to use them for air operations tied to strikes on Iran, Spain refused permission. Madrid insisted that any military action launched from its territory must comply with international law and the United Nations Charter. Without that legal framework, Spain would not authorize the bases for offensive missions. The decision surprised Washington given decades of defense cooperation. With Rota hosting Aegis-equipped destroyers and Moron serving as a marine deployment hub, the refusal carried major strategic consequences. But the military disagreement didn't stay confined to defense policy. Washington quickly turned the conflict into an economic confrontation. Trump's trade threat, tariff war shakes Atlantic alliance. Following Spain's refusal, Donald Trump sharply escalated the dispute. During a meeting with Germany's chancellor in Washington, he criticized Spain and suggested the United States could sever economic ties with the country. Trump argued Spain had acted unfriendly, and even floated the idea of imposing an embargo on Spanish goods. The threat was striking given the scale of trade between the two nations. Spain exports billions of dollars worth of products to the U.S., including pharmaceuticals, machinery, refined fuels, agricultural goods, and olive oil. However, the situation is more complicated because Spain negotiates trade through the European Union, not independently. Any U.S. trade action against Spain would therefore clash with the EU's unified trade system, risking a wider economic confrontation with the entire European bloc. Before we delve deeper, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to Highway Herald. Your support fuels our passion to create more content like this. Now let's explore the next chapter. Spain's defiant stand. Madrid rejects U.S. war pressure. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez responded quickly and firmly, making it clear that Madrid would not back down under pressure. In public statements and social media posts, he framed Spain's decision as a matter of principle. According to Sánchez, Spain would not support military actions that bypass international law or lack broad global backing. Drawing parallels to the 2003 Iraq War, he warned that entering conflicts without legal legitimacy can lead to long-term instability and suffering. In a televised address, Sánchez emphasized that Spain's stance was not hostility toward the United States, but a commitment to protecting the rules-based international order. Spain's foreign minister echoed that message, stressing that global stability depends on law rather than force. But Spain's stance quickly transformed from a national position into a broader European response. Europe closes ranks, EU backs Spain against US. As the dispute escalated, European leaders quickly signaled strong support for Spain. The European Council confirmed it was closely monitoring the situation and reaffirmed its commitment to defending the interests of EU member states. Because trade policy within the European Union is centralized, any attempt by the United States to impose economic restrictions on Spain would likely trigger a response from Brussels. European officials stressed that the issue goes beyond military base access. Many framed it as a broader concern about protecting the rules-based international order. The European Commission, which manages EU trade policy, warned that Washington must respect existing trade agreements with the bloc. This dramatically raises the stakes, turning a bilateral dispute into a potential US-EU confrontation with wider economic implications. But the tensions weren't just about military bases or trade, they also revived long-standing disputes inside NATO itself. NATO spending clash. Defense budget tensions ignite dispute. Another factor fueling the dispute is the long-running debate over NATO defense spending. Donald Trump criticized Spain for resisting proposals that alliance members raise defense budgets to roughly 5% of GDP in the coming decade. Spain has historically spent less than many NATO partners, hovering near 2% of its economic output. Madrid argues that contributions to collective security should be measured beyond spending alone, including peacekeeping missions, logistics, and operational support. Washington, however, has repeatedly pushed European allies to carry more of the alliance's financial burden. By linking Spain's base refusal to defense spending disagreements, the conflict expanded into a broader debate about NATO's future, highlighting a growing divide between calls for multilateral decision-making and Washington's preference for faster strategic action. And as the debate intensified across the Atlantic, other allies began weighing in. Allies react, Canada warns over growing NATO rift. The backlash has extended beyond Europe. Canada also voiced concern about the escalating tensions and urged restraint. Prime Minister Mark Carney called on all parties to respect international law and pursue diplomatic de-escalation. He emphasized that major military actions should ideally involve consultation with allies and international institutions. Canada's stance reflects growing unease among Western governments about how the conflict is unfolding. While many allies remain committed to security cooperation with the United States, concerns are rising about decisions being made without broader coordination. Even within Washington, political debate is intensifying. Some members of Congress are questioning the administration's long-term strategy regarding the Iran conflict and discussing whether greater oversight may be needed before further military actions occur. All of these reactions point to something bigger than a single diplomatic dispute. The bigger picture, a stress test for the Western alliance. At first glance, the confrontation between Washington and Madrid may seem like a simple dispute over military logistics, but the implications run far deeper. What we're witnessing is a real stress test for the modern Western alliance, an alliance built on shared values, economic integration, and collective security commitments. Spain's refusal to authorize base access shows how quickly tensions can emerge when military decisions collide with political principles and international law. Europe's swift support for Madrid also signals that the European Union is increasingly willing to act together as a geopolitical force. For industries that depend on stability, especially global manufacturing, energy markets, and the automotive sector, these developments matter. Trade disputes or alliance fractures can ripple through supply chains, influence fuel markets, and reshape production strategies worldwide. Whether diplomacy restores unity or exposes deeper divisions remains uncertain, but the geopolitical road ahead could reshape global partnerships well beyond this single dispute. And now we want to hear from you. Do you think tensions like this could eventually impact the global automotive supply chain? Should NATO allies coordinate more closely before major military decisions are made? Do you believe geopolitical conflicts will play a bigger role in shaping the future of the car industry? Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you found this video insightful, be sure to subscribe to Highway Herald for the latest vehicle updates and in-depth analyses. Your support helps us bring you the best in automotive content. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's more exciting and informative content waiting for you.